So a few years back, we decided to take the plunge and purchase our first video doorbell. We were due to move into our new build house, and I wanted a video doorbell that was capable of at least HD resolution, could use secure local storage, had no monthly subscriptions, and could be powered either by battery or making use of the existing doorbell cabling, as we didn't know what would be available to us at the time. Now the Eufy Video Doorbell Dual 2K ticks all of these boxes. Now before I jump in and share my experience with the video doorbell, it's worth noting that Eufy offer two versions of the Video Doorbell Dual 2K, wired and battery. Now wired is just that, it's for wired connections only, and battery can actually be used in battery mode and wired mode. There's other differences between the two, such as the wired edition is slightly more compact in design, but it does save recordings directly to the doorbell. In contrast, the battery version saves recordings securely back to the Homebase. Now we felt that the battery version was more versatile, and that's the one we ended up going with. Our doorbell came with a Homebase 2, a mounting bracket with relevant fixings, doorbell wire extension cables, USB charging cable, a detaching pin for getting the device back off the wall, and a 15-degree angle wedge for changing the angle of your doorbell slightly. It also comes with security stickers. Now, if you've already got a Homebase because you've already bought into the Eufy ecosystem, you'll be pleased to know you can buy this doorbell on its own as an add-on. We were also given an additional chime, but I will explain later on why we didn't end up using this. The setup is actually really straightforward. So you start off by connecting the Homebase to your router using the Ethernet cable provided, and you wait for the LED light to turn blue. Then you're ready for the next step. You need to download the Eufy security app and sign up to an account if you haven't done so already. Next, you want to open the app and follow the instructions to set up the sync and setup process. The app itself actually does a really good job at providing step-by-step instructions, so I'm not going to bore you with that. Mounting the doorbell is also straightforward. Eufy provide a handy positioning card which you can then use as a template for marking where the screw holes need to go. Now the setup's going to change slightly depending on whether you're mounting it onto wood or say a harder surface such as brick or stone, so you might need a drill to hand. Now the app and the quick start guide do a great job at providing instructions on how to do this, and also provides the information on how to wire in your doorbell with existing doorbell wiring if you so choose, and that's what we did. Right out of the box I was quite surprised at the size of the doorbell, but it's definitely one of the more modern and sleeker looking video doorbells on the market, and it looks great once it's installed. Now I really like the full gloss black design, and over the last 2 years it's held up really well, to the point that it looks more or less as good now as it did back when we first installed it. It is worth noting though, that on a very rare occasion, we have noticed that some people press the lens thinking that it's the button for the doorbell, only to realise that the doorbell button's below. Now, this happens more so in the day because as you approach the doorbell, the button glows blue and that stands out more at night. Now, I think the button stands out and is obvious anyway, but the full gloss black design might mean that the button doesn't stand out quite as much as other brands. Now let's get on to some features and how they perform. Starting off with the dual cameras, as let's face it, that's what sets this doorbell apart from many other offerings. We have a 2K 160-degree main camera, and we also have a 1080p 97-degree package camera to help keep an eye on any parcels left on your doorstep. Both cameras perform really well in day and night vision mode, and false alarms are really rare. The 2K camera, however, does stand out, not only for its quality, but its vivid detail and colour. The 1080p camera is great, but I feel that it's slightly over sharpened, but that could be intentional to help bring out details of nearby parcels and packages. Now, if you've got a well-lit porch area, I would suggest turning off the auto night vision mode, as this will probably help enhance your recordings. Not only will they be in colour, but if you left it in night vision mode, it could become a little bit blown out. The main camera does a great job at capturing details up to around 5 meters away. Text on things like number plates or signage might be difficult to make out beyond this point, but the overall quality is still very impressive. We've had friends and family members who use Blink and Ring video doorbells comment on just how impressed they are with the quality of our doorbell. Now, is the second camera a must-have? No, it's not. It's just not, but it is less gimmicky than I first thought. I really like that you can physically adjust the camera angle slightly for a better view of your doorstep. And we've had the delivery guard option enabled on our doorbell ever since we've had it. And for the most part, it works really well. It's not perfect by any means, and it's missed the odd parcel, but overall it's worked really well. And I'd rather have a feature that detects most undelivered parcels than none at all. And I'm hoping that with future firmware upgrades, the accuracy and detection rate will only improve. Next up, notifications. Starting off with the doorbell button push. I find this to be very responsive. The chime will activate instantly and I will receive a notification on my phone within a second or two. Now, motion triggers are a little bit slower and they might take 3 or 4 seconds to appear on my phone, but I usually find these aren't quite as relevant as the doorbell button push, and both of these features seem to be quick enough for what I need. I set my notifications to most efficiency mode, which is text-based only notifications to help speed things up. But if you do want thumbnails included in your notifications, just notice this might slow down the speed of your notifications. Although the notifications are pretty quick, the same can't be said for live view. Now, this has improved since we first installed it, but it can still take 5 seconds or so to load. Now, I know this is a common issue with a lot of video doorbells, especially battery-powered video doorbells, and 5 seconds doesn't sound that much, but it is long enough for you to miss a delivery person. And even if you do manage to connect to that delivery person before they do leave, sometimes you've got to contend with a 3 to 4 second audio delay, which can also be frustrating. Despite the audio and video delays, the audio pickup is impressively loud and clear, even with individuals that aren't next to your doorbell. We've had motion triggers activate in the past, individuals have walked by, and we've still heard their conversation even when they're out of shot. Which is impressive, if not a little bit scary. Now, audio playback isn't quite as good.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
It's a little bit tinny, but it's loud and clear enough to understand, so it does its job. I'd like to cover off wired and battery performance. As it turns out, our house came with a wired doorbell, so we followed the instructions on the Eufy app to wire in our doorbell with the existing doorbell wires. Not only does the UK wires provide sufficient power to our doorbell, but it also allowed us to use our existing indoor chime. The only time I've ever seen the power levels drop whilst it's been wired in is if I'm actively using live view a lot more than usual, or I've upped the sensitivity levels to one of the highest settings. But even then it's momentarily. Although we initially wired in our doorbell, I have, for a test, disconnected the wires of the doorbell to check battery performance. Now, I kept all settings exactly the same, as I felt that the sensitivity level of 3 and a loitering control of around 8 feet covered most scenarios. Now, the box that the doorbell came in states that it's got a 6-month battery life, but the website states that it's got a 3 to 6 month battery life depending on usage. I found that it lasted 74 days on a single charge. Now, that's less than advertised, but it's longer than I expected, to be honest. Now, you could rein in those sensitivity levels and extend your battery life beyond 3 months. But on the flip side, if you wanted to up your sensitivity level, you might be looking at recharging your doorbell every 1 to 2 months. Now, we've since gone back to using ours in wired mode just for convenience. So one of the biggest perks to this Eufy doorbell is the ability to securely store recordings on the Homebase. We don't have to deal with any monthly subscriptions, and we don't have to worry about our footage floating around in the cloud somewhere, and that's why we were drawn to this doorbell. Now, sure enough, it might be a lot more expensive initially than purchasing a monthly subscription-based doorbell, but in the long run, it could actually save you money. Now, the Homebase comes with 16 gigabytes of storage, and I know that doesn't sound like much, and I was very skeptical at first, but having used the doorbell for 2 years now, I can safely say that it's been enough for our motion alerts. I can look at clips from 6 months ago, and that's plenty for us. Now, if you do have an important clip you wish to save permanently, remember you can always just download them onto your phone. Although 16 gigabytes has been enough for us, I am a little bit disappointed that Eufy hasn't followed through on their promise to allow the Homebase 2 expandable storage via USB. This would have been a nice addition, especially for users that have additional Homebase compatible cameras. Speaking of which, the newer Homebase 3 does support expandable storage, and according to Eufy's website, it is compatible with the Video Doorbell Dual 2K. Now, I can't speak to how well it performs with the Homebase 3 as I don't have it in that configuration, and from what I can see, the Video Doorbell Dual 2K still comes with the Homebase 2. Now, I'm not rushing out to upgrade to the Homebase 3, but I can see why it might be tempting for some users that have additional Homebase compatible Eufy cameras, as the Homebase 3 does support 24/7 recording, it has a quicker LAN port, it has advanced AI features, and as mentioned previously, has expandable storage. Other than that, the Homebase 3 is very similar to the Homebase 2. For those of you interested in cloud storage, Eufy still offer monthly plans via their cloud backup service. So earlier I mentioned that we received an additional chime, but we didn't end up using it, and here's why. As you know, we ended up wiring in our doorbell using the existing wiring, which meant that we made use of the existing indoor chime. Not only that, but the Homebase acts as a chime, and we set up an Amazon Echo in our office as an additional chime.
Someone is at the doorbell.
So we really didn't need any more. That being said, if you do plan to use this doorbell in battery mode, and you don't have any additional chimes, nor do you have any smart assistants, then just note that you'll be relying on the Homebase as your sole chime. So you might want to consider picking up another one. So the doorbell is compatible with Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa, but it's not compatible with HomeKit. As mentioned previously, we use one of our Echoes as a chime, and it's really handy. But if you have something like an Echo Show, you'll be able to use that for live view or video playback. So before I wrap things up, I'd like to cover off some other neat features of this doorbell. And the first is activity zones. I know activity zones are nothing new and they're available on a lot of other video doorbells. However, with the Video Doorbell Dual 2K, you can set 2 activity zones and 1 ignore zone per camera. And this can be whatever size and shape that you like, which has proved pretty useful for us as we made an ignore zone to ignore the nearby road, which can be quite busy at times. And then there's privacy zones under video settings. This is great for blocking out parts of your video that you don't wish to record, such as maybe a neighbor's house, or more specifically a door, window, garage, whatever you like. It's not as common as activity zones, but it's a handy little privacy tool. The doorbell features dual motion detection, and this can help distinguish between near and far objects and reduces false alarms by up to 95%. It also supports loitering detection. Now, we've enabled loitering detection since day one, and we really like it. You set a parameter of a distance from your house and a time frame, and if someone's found loitering within that distance and beyond the time frame set, you will receive a motion alert and a recording. Now, please note that by default, loitering detection will sound an audio alarm.
Excuse me, can I help you?
Now, thankfully, we discovered this before it sounded to anyone else, and we turned the audio alarm off. Lastly, there's a couple of features that we don't use that others might find useful. Familiar faces is one of them. It will capture and tag faces, and this can be handy for identifying friends and family members who are visiting, or maybe someone you just wish to avoid. And ring auto response is another feature we don't make use of, but I can see how it might be helpful to some. The auto responses and custom audio responses could be useful for a number of things, including directing a delivery person to put in your parcel in a safe spot, for example. So it's been 2 years and we've been very happy with our video doorbell. We don't have to pay any monthly subscriptions. The video quality is excellent. It's got a ton of features, and our recordings are all on our own Homebase. Sure, it could be a bit quicker when it comes to things like two-way audio or live video, but this is a common issue with a lot of video doorbells, and it hasn't really affected us that much. The second camera isn't essential, but it's been a nice addition, and overall the performance has been really good. And that wraps it up for today. If you're curious about Eufy's video doorbell offerings, I will leave a link in the description below for this particular doorbell. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content like this. Until next time, cheers.